Going live. I think we're live. I'm live and recording from the improv, and I'm on a mic, but they can't. Oh wait, I want to make sure. Well, I'll readjust it when Naha gets up here. Okay.
All right, 3, 2, 1, blast off!
Thank you. I asked Jax to do some sweet lights to denote the start of the show. Oh, I didn't know you could do that back there.
All right.
Are you welcoming or am I?
You're welcome.
Oh, great, you did it. All right, welcome everybody to the Hollywood Improv Lab. It's very exciting. Right now we are doing metaphysical comedy. And even though we're talking about stuff that's out in the ether, we're also out on the internet ether by being Facebook Live right now. I look so blue. I look like I'm on another planet. I kind of like it. I look bluish purple. And, oh, look at all the places we're going. Just by sitting here. The internet's amazing. Look at...
Oh,
am I on the sun now? And the thing is, I'm so pale that, like, especially with the lighting on here, it is just pure, like, whatever these colors mixed would be on a white canvas is what it is.
Wow, you are a perfect white canvas on which the universe paints.
Both my mind and my face are completely blank canvases. Oh my God, we just went green
from here with this green glow all of a sudden.
This is our St. Patrick's Day lighting. This is so fun, and it's killing it. A bunch of people are viewing online. Why didn't we think of this before?
All right. Well, I guess we should start the show then.
We should.
Give them some content.
Well, thank you, Dax. Welcome to Metaphysical Comedy. I am Briana Hansen. I'm going to be your host for the evening. In this, if you're noticing, I am without a co-host. That's not true. I got Dax back there on the ones and twos.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this is a place where we like to talk about ideas, beliefs that are considered by some on the outskirts, but considered by me right inside my heart. And so we like to bring them up and just chat with them. And today we have a very special guest. I'm saying we. Dax, it's you and me.
It's we.
It's us. We have a very special guest, Naha Armády. I said it right. From the House of Intuition. I'm going to call her for just 1 second. I'm so sorry. I said it and then she got up like a nice person because that would have been the perfect time to call her up. But I was going to talk really quick just to say something up top and to let people who want to trickle in both online or on in person, in body, which it sounds like they're doing, to do so. Okay, this is all I wanted to say. I want to give a little more about Naha too before I bring you up because I'm not just going to be like, oh, also Naha's here, come on up. I'm going to try and, make it big, make it special because we're so blue. Okay, so the one thing I want to talk about really quick that maybe I'll get into, I'll ask you about too, is last time we had Metaphysical Comedy, I talked about, if you can tell, we've probably known each other for a few minutes now, either digitally or in real life. I have a lot of energy, and it is hard for me sometimes to tame it in. It's hard, especially when I'm performing, I get very excited, and people are like, what are you on? I'm like, life, I'm on life! And they're like, calm down, and I lose friends. So I've been doing things to try and improve, I don't know, to find a balance, to be true to my highly energetic self while also not scaring people. So one of the things I did recently, which I talked about last time, so I just want to touch on right now, is I went to a float tank. Has anyone ever done this? Have you, the sensory deprivation?
My cousin has one in his house.
What?
Yeah, he owns one. He's a neuroscientist/artist in Philadelphia. So every time I stay with him, I just float in his own personal float tank.
How long do you stay in there?
I mean, I've stayed in there for 2 hours.
Okay, because that's what we did. We did the 2-hour one. We went in head first, and we're 2 hours. It's really intense. It's I don't know what your experience was.
I mean, mine was always great. I think it helps if you have kind of a meditative practice already that you go in with, and it just takes you to another level on that.
Yes, that's what I went with my boyfriend who does not meditate regularly but dates me, so has the patience of a saint, as it is. So he has that going for him. I don't have a lot of patience, but I try to meditate to learn what the hell patience is. And that actually is what I thought too, because the first 15 minutes in this in that float tank, because it's totally dark. You open and close your eyes, it's the same. You don't even know like what's real. Are terrifying too, because it's like humid, and I like saunas. I don't like steam rooms. So like it kind of feels like a steam room where you start thinking you're gonna die, like you can't breathe, and like I had to breathe so deep and go into like almost immediately like it's okay. And then what I discovered about myself is my imagination, which I love, can also be used for evil, because I went through every single scenario in which I could die. For the first 20 minutes, I thought of every single way that I could die in there. The obvious one, suffocation aside, I mean, whatever. But you float, so it's like, I'm probably not going to roll over and die. Like, there's probably, the ones they've thought of are probably not going to happen, but what if there's an earthquake? And nobody knows I'm in here. The only person who knows I'm in here is 2 float tanks down, and he's going to be stuck in his float tank. Or he's going to be running for it, as he should. There's like, if the big one hits while you're in a float tank. What if electricity goes out and you can't open the door? What if they forget about you? What if they forget? And then, after that was all gone, oh, it was wonderful. And then it was like, oh, that I think is like heightened meditation. That's what meditation's with. It's got the monkey mind, but even if you do meditation for like, I try and practice like 20 minutes a day, sometimes I don't get through monkey mind. Monkey mind is just like so active that it's like, well, I just sat down for 20 minutes. But that was very much...
Which still has its value.
Yes, thank you for saying that. No, never mind. But like, this was so refreshing, because you're thinking like, is it 2 hours, it's 2 hours, it's 2 hours, and then you forget to think that, and then you're like, what's time? What's time? What's reality? Where does my body end and this thing begin? And then I realized another thing about myself. I'm very playful, which I kind of already knew, but once I got through the craziness of like all the ways that I could die, and then realized I probably wasn't, or if I was, that's okay. That's how I go down, naked in a float tank. But like, I'm a comedian. That's a humorous way to go. That's all right. But I also realized, like, I was doing all these, I started just finding ways to play. And it wasn't so that I had something to do. It was like, that's what I wanted to do. I would like contort my body in weird ways, and like, just like...
Yeah, when you're feeling like you're without gravity, then you're all of a sudden, oh, this is interesting.
Exactly. You're like, I'm flying, and like, here's my, I tried different, it was really fun. So, okay, I just wanted to give everybody an update on the float tank. In case, yeah, you should do it.
I recommend it for everyone.
I recommend it, but I do think it turns out you don't need a meditative practice. Like I said, my boyfriend didn't do it, and so he was fine. But I do think if you make it through the first, I assume 15 minutes, you have no sense of time, but I'm going to assume 15, 20 minutes, maybe even 30. You make it through that, you can do the rest. Because the first, it really is disconcerting. It really is like, I thought about getting out a bunch of times in that first bit. And then I was like, I paid for this, and my like frugality took over. That's it. We're just like, no, we're getting our money's worth. We're staying in here till they make you leave. And then it was pretty cool. Okay, anyway, so speaking of mind melding things, oh, look at all these people that are enjoying this live. That's so cool.
Fantastic.
So are you live too, or are you just picture taking? You don't have to be live. I answered that like I was really excited that you would disappoint me if I said no. I do that all the time, like, hey, are you doing this thing? And they're like, no. And I'm like, I'm also happy about that. I'm sorry to make it sound like I wouldn't have been. Whatever your response was, great, picture taken. Okay, okay, good. But we're live here, and that's so cool. There's all these people. It's very neat. Okay, so the reason I wanted to hesitate to bring you up is because I want to build you up a little bit, Naha. Naha is a really, I would say a renowned, I'm going to use the word renowned because I mean it, teacher and healer. She works out of the House of Intuition on Sunset. I know her because she taught an intuition class, developing intuition class at the beginning of the year. And at the beginning of the year, I decided I wanted to become a Jedi. So I was like, oh, Jedis use the Force. And so I saw this, and I was like, I have to go to this. And the class was amazing, and Naha was wonderful, and I became obsessed with her. And then for various reasons, I couldn't go back to week 2. You know, sometimes you have to listen to the Force, because the Force is like, stay on the west side, you jackass. So that's what I did. But I became obsessed with her. I've been following her on everything. She's a little overwhelmed by me, but she's really chill about it, I can tell. So I'm excited to have her come up. Please welcome Naha Armády.
Clap
online.
I'm
Clap,
clapping in the
viewers. We're clapping. Naha, let's get this right. Hold on, we gotta get you in here so everybody can see.
On the camera view.
How about that? Now we can see you.
Hi.
Move this forward.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Naha. First of all, welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Okay, so I have so many questions. I'm not even sure where to begin, and I don't want to begin with like, so tell me about yourself, because that feels like the biggest cop out.
Well, I wanted to say, just in response to what you were talking about with the deprivation thing.
Yes, please.
I think that what you said is so symbolic of so many people's steps into things that you had to push through that moment of thinking, oh my gosh, these are all the different ways that I could die, and so many people thought, right? don't allow themselves to push all the way through there, and they do just give up in whatever arena that they are pushing their comfort zone or trying something new, and they maybe give something a chance, and if they can't acclimate to it right away, they go, nope, that's not for me. And I mean, let's face it, a lot of people never even get to that point. So I congratulate you for sticking through it, going no, regardless of whether it was, I don't want to lose my payment,
my $40.
but the fact that you did it and you got there and you got that payoff, I think is great. So congratulations.
Thank you for that. I do think that there is a background to like being an athlete that helps out with that a little bit. I use that, it sounds silly, but I use that in a lot of life philosophy of like, okay, this is gonna suck, but like you got to get through the little cramp and see what's on the other side. It doesn't mean you're gonna win. It just means you've got to force yourself to get through the cramp, whatever the cramp is.
Get past it, totally.
Yeah, and then you get the runner's high or adrenaline or whatever it is. So, okay, let me start with what you are kind of best known for, at least best known for. One of the things that I first found you before I found developing intuition, because I wanted to become a Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm just reminding everyone I wanted to become a Jedi. That's a true manifesto that I could like read to you, my Jedi manifesto. But by the way, it's also a religion. But it's way too much as a religion. It's way too much. Like never, it's way too much. So that's not, okay. People know you for, people know you. I found you for middle pillar healing.
Right.
Which is like a comprehensive healing that I'm very curious about because I haven't yet done it. But that seems to be one of your things. Like you teach.
That's my thing.
That's like my. So let's start there.
That's my zhuzh. That's my
that and crystals, which are the two big things we're gonna start with.
Okay.
So first that.
Well, in my training and working with my teachers, this had all started for me as just a way to have deeper self-knowledge and understanding, and in my own way, become a Jedi or a wizard or whatever.
Thank you. It's a manifested
kind of being.
Yes.
And so I was working with a couple of really highly regarded teachers up in Seattle, and they had taught me this practice, which is called the middle pillar.
Okay.
And the middle pillar is simply the middle line of your body, which is the line of balance. So where anything in your life is kind of pulled over to one side or the other, and whether it's your mind is kind of running 1,000 miles a minute, or conversely,
always.
It's on the other side, or your emotions are super high or they're super low. The idea of the middle pillar is to take those things and to get them centered so that you're not operating in one extreme or the other.
Okay.
So they had taught me that practice, and then
where did it originate from for them? Do you know? Or
where that originates from actually goes back to the end of the 1800s, when a magical society called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was doing this practice, and they were big players in sort of the occult revival at the time. And they had under wraps, like, oh, I'm into all of these mystical ideas and these occult things, but I wasn't being out loud and proud about that when I was living up in Seattle. So when I came here, it's exactly what you said. I felt like it was things that were much more embraced, and the opportunities were there, and people are hungry for it here, and they don't think it's weird.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They don't think it's weird. I go home. I'm from Indianapolis originally, and I go home, and I love my friends at home, many of whom may be watching, and they know this, but they'll be like, oh, you're so LA now. I don't know if you ever got that. And I was like, I have always been. It turns out I've always been LA. I just lived here. Like I just.
Yeah, I've always asked that question. Like I thought that about surfer dudes. I'm like, do people in Ohio, are they born surfer dudes and then end up in California, or did they come as Ohio dudes and then become surfer dudes? I'm like, no, they're born surfer dudes. They figure out where to go to feel. Yeah. So I think that happens in Los Angeles. People feel like, oh, I need to be around a big, warm, open community and find people who accept me, and then they come to LA and they find that. Or California.
And they find it like mainstream. I mean, as much as I'm excited about this podcast and this opportunity, shows of bringing out of the norm things, it's not like I'm going to these sweat lodges in tiny places. It's like I'm sending an email to a woman I found by Googling quickly and went to a thing. You know, it's sort of easy, like mainstream. And at the class I was at, there were 50 people there. It wasn't like that me and Naha just like right now, she'd be like, okay, I've had enough of you. It was just that, but it's crazy how you can embrace that.
Yeah, and so the opportunities are here, and it's funny, I was on my journey. I started at House of Intuition just reading tarot and doing tarot readings for people and knowing that I wanted to help people more. So I started exploring all of these different modalities. So I had heard and I knew a little bit about Reiki, about hands-on energy work, so I went and got some Reiki training. And I was really starting to get into the crystals, which I know we're going to talk about. And so I went and got some training in crystal healing, but still I was going, what is my thing? I still don't know what my thing is. So I'm looking and looking, trying to find what my healing modality is, what I'm going to call it. I don't have the patience to only be a Reiki master, because Reiki is very much like you calmly have your hands laying on somebody.
Do you know what's crazy?
And 5 minutes go by,
and I couldn't.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
And I'm sitting there like looking at my watch, going, "Has it been 5 minutes? Has it been 5 minutes?" Because I want to have all the bells and whistles and be chanting and be doing things and
dancing.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, I know that's part of it, that's not everything. So in the end, my search led me back around to a little tiny book. It was called The True Art of Healing. And it was by an author that I really admired. And in that book, he talks about the middle pillar and how you can use that as a practice. And I'd never even thought of it. So my search led me full circle back. I looked at it and I said, I already know this. My teachers taught me this 12 years ago.
Isn't that funny how you're drawn to something and you don't realize how it's going to manifest until so much later? You're like, why did I even do that thing that one time? And then 10 years later, you're like, thank God I did that thing that one time.
Yeah, right.
Because I needed that.
Yeah.
Okay, and another thing that you brought up just now that has been on my mind that's fascinating is I've been studying a lot of, I've been into like Native American spirituality lately. I've been just trying to brush up on that. And there's some Lakota stories I've been hearing about in terms of healing, and this reminded me of what you're talking about of bringing back like medieval beliefs and magic, especially after the Industrial Revolution when everyone was like, only what you can see,
right?
Period. You make money and you die. Stop talking about anything but that. But some of these like Native American stories, they're starting to find, I mean, there have been these truths throughout all of humanity that in many ways are starting to, I don't want to say be proven, but are like, we're finding crazy, science is sort of saying like, oh, this one thing we've been talking about, yeah, all right, we can mathematically prove that now. So I guess it might have validity, but it's like, how did the Lakota know what the placement of that black hole? That it's, I mean, like the Lakota literally called Creator, and they placed it somewhere outside the Milky Way, and they discovered a black hole exactly where the Lakota people described where creation began. Come on!
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's so cool. And in so many different spiritual contexts, quantum physics is proving all of the things that spiritualists and mystics and metaphysical people have taken as truth in their tradition for so long. And it's funny because things had to get disproven first, and now they're backtracking. They're going, well, maybe actually we were wrong, and there is something here. Right. Maybe actually everything is energy, and everything is moving and vibrating.
You know, or just me all the time. Just something's moving, just all the time, just going. It's got to be real. I was going to ask you. So in this journey. Because now we're talking skeptics and skepticism, and because that's part of what I struggle with is like I feel like when I was young I had a good grip on it, and then accidentally lost it, and then re-gripped it, and then purposefully lost it. Like was like, "Oh, stop believing that, you crazy person."
Yeah.
How do you? I don't want to say trust yourself, but there have got to have been times where you didn't know
all the time.
Okay, good. Okay,
all
good.
all the time, and I get to that point, and there are those days when I question what is really going on here. Is what I think I'm connecting to something that is real? Is this really working? And every time I get to that point, some kind of crazy miracle do I witness. And so it's, I also come from I do come from a skeptical background, and I'm not somebody to just take things on faith. I have to have personal experience to actually begin to build an opinion about something. There's constantly checks and balances with that. I'm never going to just read something in a book and say, oh, well, this is what this author says my aura looks like, so I'm gonna believe that. No, I have to have some kind of an experience with that, and when I feel myself starting to question it, it's just amazing. Like every time there's something that is just uncanny. Like I'll have a client come in and just share, we'll share such a crazy magical experience. Maybe one of their ancestors will come through, and I'll describe that person, or just something that I don't know how I know it, and just to get that validation always brings me right back around to go, yeah, this is real.
There's definitely something. Thank you. That was your roommate,
my liege.
Your liege, Ryan, who's kindly here, who moved out here with you, he said, 6 years ago. That must have been a crazy, what prompted that decision? Was it just, you had visited and you were like, we love it?
Actually was born
here. Is there
here.
A warrant out for your arrest?
Well,
you can talk about it here.
Actually, we're not going to talk about how we're on the lam, because that's a story for another time.
Follow up. Post-show follow-up.
But there is a crazy story about how we came down here. So I was born here, and moved away when I was 5 years old. I didn't make the decision myself. My parents.
Well, I was about to say, wow, you knew what
see
you
you
wanted.
guys later.
Get me out of here.
So I always wanted to come back. It's always been a magical place to me. When I was little, and I would come visit my grandparents down here and get off the plane and see that the first thing you see is like the palm trees that lets you know you're in Los Angeles. And so even as an adult, whenever I would come here, it would invoke that kind of childlike wonder feeling.
I love the jazz.
And at some point, I don't know, it's been 6 years. So 7 years ago, I guess I said, you know what, we're moving to LA. So I told my best friend, save your money, and in 1 year we're gonna move to LA.
I love that you made a we decision with him.
That's the nature of our relationship. So we came down and we had it all planned out. But what we had planned out was we're moving here. But I had no plan. I can't even understand how now I came without a plan. I knew I wasn't going to be doing what I had been doing any longer in Seattle, which was bartending.
Sure. And
I at one point was completely invested in being a bartender. No offense to the bartender. Until I was like a little old white-haired lady going, "Hey, honey, what do you have?"
So you were like the woman hitting on young men.
I wanted to be that woman.
I still
cigarette hanging with like the long ashes, and I was like, "That's gonna be me."
And she's got the container for the cigarette. She's not holding it. She's got like the long odd.
So I imagined myself being that person at one time in my life, and then as I got older and that didn't seem so great to me anymore, I said, okay, who knows what I'm going to be when I get to Los Angeles. Maybe I'll work at Jamba Juice. Like that was my skill set.
Different kind of bartending.
Right? So we came down and we were looking for an apartment. And it was just the strangest thing. As soon as we landed in LA, just like the weirdest things started to happen. Like the strangest coincidences.
I thought you were going to say people approaching you. I was like, still
the strangest people approaching. And so there's a really kind of crazy, unexplainable phenomenon of how we found our apartment. So we had a list of all the places that we were going to take a look at, and that we'd gotten off of Craigslist or whatever. We go from place to place, and they sound so wonderful in the ads, but once you get there, it's like there's literally a pile of dead insects sitting on the floor.
But the floor is a hardwood floor. It's a natural hardwood floor that's just never been.
There's termites crawling out of the.
But the ad said close to shopping. Yeah, if you're shopping for crack.
Don't mind the urine smell, like all of those things.
Yeah, so leave that out.
So we're checking off the list. No, we're not living any of these places. And it's the last day that we have to find a place. Literally the last day, there's one spot left on our list. So we drive to the last spot. We're about 10 minutes early, and there's a woman in the driveway. And the woman says, oh, no, this is already rented. Go on your way. And we said, wait, what are you talking about? We're early. No one's even they haven't shown this apartment yet. This woman said, no, I've already rented this apartment. Just go. And so we thought she's trying to throw us off the trail.
Yeah, you're like,
be there before the realtor shows up, right?
If you tell me this woman grew wings and flew away because she was an angel keeping you away from that. First of all, believe you. Secondly, I'll be super excited. You don't have to. I'm already in love with this woman.
So we look at each other and we go, there's no way we're letting this woman
get this apartment.
Yeah, so
especially now. Now you're just like.
So we're like, we're just gonna, and she's so insistent. You need to leave now. She's getting really pushy.
I know. Goosebumps in this story.
So somehow, and Rob, he's a 6'5" guy. He's not the kind of person that you just like intimidate, right?
Right.
So
I'm scared of him.
She says to us, and she's starting to make us think like maybe we need to go. And she says, look, I'm going to give you an address of a place. She hands it to us. She says, go to this place. There's an apartment there I've already rented, but I'm going to break my lease there so I can get this one, so you guys might want this other place. So somehow we listen to this woman. We go to the other apartment. The landlord just happens to be there and is seemingly surprised that we're there, of course, because we show up unannounced. They go, sure, we'll show you the place. We walk in. It's amazing. It's everything on our little manifestation list that we've ever wanted. And the landlord says, how are you guys here? We said, well, the woman who signed the lease gave us the address. He says to us, no, we have not even shown this apartment yet. No one has signed the lease. This apartment doesn't even go on the market till tomorrow.
No.
Is that so
I'm freaking
crazy?
out. I'm going to do the thing I do with a good story like that. I'm going to cry. Oh my God.
It was the craziest thing. And that was our introduction to LA. And I said, that is so uncanny. Who was that woman?
That's what I want to know.
Who was she?
Oh my God. My poor boyfriend is here and knows I cry like on a dime. So like when I'm like, I'm losing it, like who was she? She was taking care of you.
Well, I think that, I don't know, was she a guardian angel? She came pretty heavy handed if she was.
But I talked about this a little bit before. I think we talked about it in the Nikki episode, but I am a firm believer, and maybe this is because my world is so comedy oriented or whatever, that, and maybe you can affirm or deny this, the other side, whatever it is, angels, spirits, energies, they have, if they exist, which I purport that they do, they have personalities. Mm-hmm. Like, I have some people who come through when Nikki has done healings on me, and I can almost hear by the way she's doing it, and she's so chill and energetic, but I can still hear, like, this woman being, like, an angry New Yorker. Like, and she's always so frustrated with me for checking in. She's like, are you not working? And then, like, I can feel it, and I'm like, the other side, I think, has, like, I say that because I don't think it's always angels of, like, here, come to this apartment. It's like, go away. Go away.
Totally.
Like, that seems...
Yeah, no, okay. Sometimes people's guides, which I'll experience in different ways, maybe I just kind of get a sense that they're around, or it's rare that I actually have a vision of them, but usually I kind of get a sense or hear their voice, and sometimes they are very sort of benevolent and what you might think of as, just being a very compassionate presence, and sometimes they come in like linebackers, and they're like, look, you tell her this is what we need her to do.
Oh, I love that.
Sometimes they totally have personalities. Sometimes they're very they're much more pushy, or they're much more like, we need you to light a fire under this person's butt and get them moving,
I haven't thought about this story in years, but I want to share it with you because I think you'll get a kick out of it. Years ago, when I was first learning to meditate in Indianapolis, of all places, I did a guided meditation with my teacher, and we were in a group, and I didn't know you could have more than one guide.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed, because I'd never learned otherwise, I knew nothing, I still know nothing, but that you have one man and one female and maybe an animal. Like, I was like, that makes sense.
Cute.
Yeah, that was just my assumption of like, so we were doing this meet your guides meditation type thing, and a man comes in, and a woman comes in, and then another man comes in, and in my mind, I kicked this guy out. I was like, no, it's for my guides, get out. And he was like cracking, and it's so funny because I could see him so specifically. He was a very specific, like tall, slender, wearing a suit, top hat. Like that's a specific, and French, okay? That's I kick him out. I'm like, no, get out. I know you're not my guide. He comes back in giggling. I do it again. I'm like, out. They're already here. Out. So that happens a few times. All that, I say nothing because I don't know what I'm doing anyway. A woman in our group meditation then was sharing a little bit and was like, so I saw this like tall, slender, wearing a suit, top hat French man.
Yeah.
And I'm like 14 at the time, just like, what is life? And she was like, and he was just cracking up because I guess he was like here for someone else, but like they wouldn't let him in. And I, of course, being my go-to reaction, start crying. I was like, I kicked him out. That was me. And it was just such a weird, at 14 in Indianapolis, Indiana, to have this like strange, like, what was that? And then that's when I started learning, like, it's kind of a crew, and they know you better than, because this guy wasn't like, I'm done, God smite her. He was like, this is hilarious. Of course she's kicking me out. Like, it was very, I don't know, it's just such a cool, you probably have experiences, like, in middle pillar healing, I bet.
I love that you were 14.
I know. I've been into it for a while, I just refuse to admit it.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, as far as how many guys, the way that I look at the spiritual realm or the subtle realm is, it largely, the rules that apply are largely the same as the rules on our three-dimensional, somewhat material world. And, some people have large families, some people have small families, some people have lots and lots of guides, some people work with one specific, and, it's funny that he showed back up and you were trying to kick him out, and actually you do have the right to do that.
Oh, that's funny.
You can.
I think maybe he knew like I was doing it because I had the wrong idea in my head, not because I was like, we're done here. It was like I just didn't know. I was like, I already have my man. He's in the corner. Do not see him. But
you can, I always try to teach people that, you treat these kind of energies the same way that you would treat a person that you're that you're meeting. I
never thought about that. Just because you like decided on them beforehand doesn't mean you got to keep them around.
That was actually news to me until one point when I met someone that was also a reader and a healer, and she said to me one day, I just fired all my guides. I was like, you can do that? She said, yeah, I told them, thanks, but it's time for a changing of the guard, and you guys can go on your way. I'm calling in new ones.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to feel like it's something that controls you. You get to make those choices and control that. So
I like that a lot. I think I actually, gosh, so many stories I'd forgotten about. When I lived in Chicago before I moved out here, and one of the reasons I think I was hesitant to move out here was because at the time I was going to my reader, my guy, and I had a good relationship with him. He was my teacher and stuff, so I was, I think, so insecure in myself, excuse me, that I didn't know how to, I was so in response to what he would tell me in a reading, rather than realizing that what I see now when I get readings, or what I believe now, whatever you believe in, that it's sort of, in this moment, these are all the possibilities, and there's a really strong one leading this way, so that's coming through the strongest, but that doesn't mean it's the only. So I say that because I kept going to him like, I don't know what to do with my life, and he kept being like, New York, and I'd be like, I guess I'm going to New York, but then I just never, like, it never felt right, and then he'd be like, no, LA, no, New York, and then it was New York for a long time, and I was the one in response, and it wasn't until a bad snowstorm in Chicago followed up with a terrible audition wherein said snowstorm fell upon me on the way out of terrible audition that I stopped, looked to the heavens and was like, all right, you say New York, I say LA, because I'm going to go get rejected in sunshine. Like, that's all there is to it. And then that sort of started a shift of like, oh, I have control. I don't need to sit here and be in response to like a reading. Like, they're helpful, but it's just a tool. It's just kind of like a make you think about it. And then once I set my intention on LA, it was like, boom, now it felt right, and then movement happened. It's
I love it.
It's crazy.
I love that cinematic moment too. Looking up.
It felt so cinematic. With like literally the sludge from the bus I was trying to catch hitting me after an audition, wherein I said, the only time I've ever said an audition, yeah, I don't want to be here as much as you don't want me here right now. Like, I was so off. It was just the worst, and anyway.
Well, I think you made the right choice in coming out here. I mean, there's a reason why for so long people have pilgrimaged to Los Angeles and set up, their different kinds of spiritual foundations. They've made their headquarters here, and it's because something might be in the water, even though we don't drink it.
Well, there is something in the water. That's why we don't drink it.
But
filter that.
Part of the way that I imagine why that is that this is a place of extremes, and what a lot of people think about Los Angeles is that there's like the shallow materialistic side, which there is, or the kind of like focusing on image side, but there has to be a balance. If that does exist, then there has to also be a very, very deep and very very subtle kind of side as well. Otherwise, I think the place would just kind of implode upon itself.
Yeah, that's true. Otherwise, it just be a vortex of sadness.
So, and it's interesting, kind of between the mountains and then the ocean, like all of the elements, these kind of like raw elements are all here for magic to be able to happen. So
I love that. You were talking earlier about your place, which I think is a nice transition now I would like to make into, does your place have a lot of crystals? And let's talk about crystals!
Ooh, yeah. My house, you mean Museum of Altars?
Oh my god, I'm so jealous. I want to live there.
Yeah, of course, we have crystals all over the place. And that was something that took me a while to actually get into, because I don't know, like I said, I come from that skeptical background, so I appreciated crystals for the fact that they're beautiful, and they're pretty, they look cool, and I do have a strong collector gene. So once I start finding out, like, oh, there's all these different ones that you can get, of course I want, one from every shape and size. Yes. But it wasn't until I started really having the experience with working with them, because I was around them at House of Intuition all the time, that I started seeing
at a chocolate shop for me. Like, you just gotta have a sample every day.
They have magical powers. They do. So the way that I can explain that in terms of the house is that house was there, and the way that that place was began. I mean, that in and of itself was uncanny. Yeah, and
I love that so much.
And I was there from the very beginning, and it was kind of day in and day out, hoping that someone was going to walk in the door. We would go like 3 days, there would be no clients at all, and then we'd hear somebody walking up the stairs, and it was like
House of Intuition.
Yeah, like everybody, like, look busy, somebody's coming.
Just start dusting something.
Exactly. And then they brought the stones in. They said somebody had told them, like, you guys should carry rocks and crystals. And from the moment that they brought them in, all of a sudden it's like the doors were flooded with people, and we were going like, what's bringing all of these people? And our explanation was that these rocks were generating some kind of energy. So very quickly I started to be learning more and more about them, and like anything, once you start believing in it, it starts working for you.
Right. I think that's why, like, I love and I strongly maintain, like, my well, it's just the Midwest skeptic in my head of like, what do you think you believe again? Like, that voice is always there, but I've started, instead of being like, I'm sorry, being like, thank you, I hear you, I'm going to continue and do this anyway. Like, the more I embrace that, even with like the things I was telling you about this show just beforehand and all these, I was like, okay, all these things are happening. I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to live in it. And then that feels like it alleviates energy that gets to be spent on something positive that makes me affirm that was the right decision. And then that, it's just like a big cycle of like, let it go. Yeah. Although it's good not just to hop on whatever, I don't want to say specifically like a big religion around here that people just tend to hop on that may or may not rhyme with Mayan knowledge. Like maybe not believe in everything, but maybe, if it serves you, sure.
I think if you're open-minded, more roads will open to you.
Yes.
And the more that you kind of lock yourself down into dogmatism, like the more your path gets pretty narrow.
Yes.
But if you're open-minded, and my point of view is kind of like anything's possible. Yes. Now, that doesn't mean I'm automatically going to believe in everything, but based on my life experience so far, anything can happen. Yes. And the rocks are a really great example of that, because all kinds of things happen.
So I brought some rocks for you. I brought a show and tell for everybody.
Right, yes.
My boyfriend's gonna be so excited because he's just so tolerant. He's just so tolerant of, I'm not even scratching the surface of the number of rocks I want in our place and like the way it's gonna be decorated and all that stuff. He, in fact, one time after I saged, he saged our place, he goes, "Are chakras online now?" That's his way of, so that's our new phrase of like, are we in? So I have this little thing, which I made sure to wear. This is my chakra balancing.
I love it. So you have one for each chakra, and then this is gorgeous. And then you have a clear quartz crystal behind that, kind of lining everything up. Beautiful.
Thank you. This is my daily. Okay, so then these are some of the ones. So House of Intuition actually has these intention candles, which I love, because you get to burn a candle like nonstop for 5 or 7 days, depending on how long it lasts. And then there's a little gem in there for you to keep to remember. So these are some of my crystals, and I thought I'd just bring them, and you can, if there's one that sticks out to you or something that you want to, I'll show and tell here. This one I've had forever. This one's just my general clear quartz, everybody. But I guess my question is, here's a couple things. I'm not good at crystal maintenance. I kind of don't know how or when to charge them. I'm not sure what to do with them because I'm not meticulous about, sometimes I'll be like this one, this, but then I'm like, well, I'm going to lose it in my pocket. What do you do? Well, how would you say Crystals 101 beginner, this is your whole collection. Well, this is half, this thing broke, but it's okay.
Well, I mean, really, it's so funny how much more intuitive we are than we sometimes give ourselves credit for, because people will all the time ask me, I need a crystal for, what crystals should I get to help me with this or that other issue? And I'll always tell them the same thing, see what you're drawn to first, like what do you feel? And then they'll say, no, I just want you to tell me. So, okay, well, for instance, you've got fluorite. Now, fluorite is fantastic for calming the mind. They call this one the psychic vacuum cleaner.
Oh, no wonder I have no interest in it. Calm me down.
This one helps to clear out some mental clutter. And so I might say, okay, fluorite would be good for you. And they always have the exact same response. Oh, that's so funny. That's the exact one that I was drawn to or looking at. But people don't always... Initially, they want a validation of what they're kind of thinking. But as far as how to clean them, Crystals 101, it's really, they just want to be worked with. They want to be handled. They spent thousands of years underground, and so if anything, they don't want to be just dug out of the ground to be put, back in a drawer somewhere, or not to be used and to be out. So they like to be out and about and around you, and carrying them in your pocket is a great thing. I mean, even, people that are don't think of them as magical. It's having stones, having rocks. Who hasn't connected to that? You pick up rocks when you go places because it reminds you of that place. My family, who is not mystical at all, they're not religious, they're not well, my sister actually is very religious, but not in terms of hippie shit. and so when I wanted to give them gifts, I thought, well, of course I'm gonna go with what I know, and I give them rocks. And I think, if anything, they can think like, this is something pretty for me to put in my house. My dad says to me, And I gave him a bloodstone. Bloodstone's really good for connecting family members. And he said to me one day, oh, well, I had seen that stone that you gave me, and it was on my dresser, and I just pick it up and give it a squeeze whenever I miss you. I know, I'm going to try and make you cry now. Isn't that the sweetest thing? You know, and so like people connect to it. I mean, it's something of the earth. So you have, actually you have a lot of third eye stuff here. So you have amethyst. This is a beautiful lapis. And this is a good example of a stone that's been used really since ancient times. The ancient Egyptians were really into lapis lazuli. They called it the starry sky.
I like that one. That's one.
And I always use the Egyptians as a really good example for people that want to challenge astrology or metaphysical beliefs, to say, you know what? Okay, let's take a look at the one structure that has been standing for thousands of years that is like could not be built today, the pyramids, right? Now, do you want to argue with the people that created those structures, which was all done in terms of, you know, astrological aspects and where the sun rose and the, you know, magnetic lines of the earth? Now, these were people that worked in the understanding that these cosmic aspects, they affect us, they influence us. Mm-hmm. So you have to think, like, these people knew what they were doing. They knew something that we don't know, right?
Yeah, and then we just keep forgetting it.
Yeah, so I like to say, you know, consider that when you think there's nothing to it, right?
Right.
So lapis was one that was very important to the ancient Egyptians, and that's the stone of truth. So, speaking your truth. What's this little guy here? Little black tourmaline?
That's a little, tourmaline. Mm-hmm. Tourmaline, did I say it right? I'm learning.
Tourmaline, which you'll find in your flat iron when you are straightening your hair.
Oh!
Yeah, it will say a lot of times on the box, contains tourmaline. So tourmaline...
Oh, I thought it was as a result of my, like, I thought you were like, wash your hair. No. I was like, I'm sorry.
No.
It's been a few days.
Because minerals.
I don't work, I work out and I'm like, I'm just going to get sweaty again.
You'll find this in your hairbrush, I'll pick it out.
I know, I was really self-conscious about how dirty my hair was.
In a flat iron, I don't know, it's probably down in Santiago or somewhere, and so I was looking at the... you know, the $5, and it says contains tourmaline. I said, well, that's a magical stone. What would it be doing in a flat iron? Well, it turns out that this is a mineral that helps disperse heat. So they would put it in a heating element so that it would disperse heat evenly. Well, metaphysically, this is a stone that disperses electromagnetic energy, or you know, helps to kind of break up energy knots. And so I thought, well, that's really fascinating, because there's an actual, you know, through physics, that the same kind of quality is present that a metaphysical person would use it for.
I love that.
So breaking up, dispersing energy knots.
I love that. Mm-hmm. This is reminding me, because you're such a teacher, you began teaching. So when I took Developing Intuition, you were talking about how, like, this year especially, you were focusing a lot more on teaching, right? Mm-hmm. And 22 Teachings is like your brand or your style of teaching?
Yeah,
and
that's
what does it stand for?
22 Teachings is kind of the school within House of Intuition that I have created to kind of be the umbrella for all of the different aspects for teaching tarot and developing intuition and teaching about the crystals. And 22 is just an important, that's my special lucky number, and it also has a lot of occult significance. So
that was my lucky number when I was growing up. I was my AIM name was Jade Girl 22. Sorry, side note, when I went and saw an NSYNC concert as a kid, JC, my favorite, was wearing a jersey during one song that had a 22. And I believe he waved at me. It was a crowd of people, but I felt it. Yeah. Eye contact and I went nuts. So I'm with you on the 22 being a very important.
That is
special
amazing.
Number.
Yeah, it is. So I've kind of built that, and it started with just having a class here and a class there, and it's really built into a full year-long curriculum, so you can take you can take one course and that kind of leads into the next. And just this year I've started with more advanced teachings. So for the people that are going, we've taken everything, like now what? So there's kind of like a higher
Other people are like, I'm done. I'm done growing. Like, I'm finished.
Well, definitely I'm not.
I was about to say.
Yeah, I consider myself, always a student and always trying to learn more and also, update the things that I think I know. So
that's what I think is so interesting, especially when you kind of blew my mind earlier and said you can change around stuff. I think that's the thing that is sometimes hard to embrace and accept, is when you go through like major periods of change, and then you automatically, despite your external surroundings, which have changed immensely, start to internally revert back to what was comfortable and what you knew before, I think. I've noticed. And so that you almost have to internally be like, now catch up, we're not that person anymore, and you have to, whatever that is, whether it's discard, relationships, spiritual or real, usually real for me, very hard to do, but like you have to cut that off and start of becoming that person instead of, I call it like being at a, like vibrating in a certain energy, which I probably use because that's just what I do. But you naturally start to change that vibration, then it'll go back to what it's used to unless you make a concerted effort to be like, nope, this is how we vibrate now, and like we got to work on this and do it daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you have to not beat yourself up too, but to put your best foot forward and to try to get yourself so you're not doing just like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. But, with so many metaphysical practices, people they get hard on themselves because they think, oh God, I should be meditating, I should be setting aside 20 minutes every single day, and then if I don't do it, then I feel bad about it, and then you're like in a guilt spiral.
Like type A, like me, you've got a checklist of like, here are the things we did today.
It really it's about like doing your best, and that's one of the awesome things about being conscious, which is really what a big, that's what the point is for me, is having more understanding of this realm. And when you do that, like my belief is that things actually flow easier. Life gets easier when your aura is clear. You can navigate through things easier. So if you think about it, and especially if you live somewhere where there's a lot of people, there's like a lot of pollution, your aura is like your own little mini environment. So it will look like a reflection of the city that you live in. And if that's really cluttered,
in June.
And if it's smoggy, then you can imagine trying to go throughout your day is like would be like having Velcro around you, like every little piece of lint and everything just will stick to that. But if that's nice and clear, and if you're conscious of clearing it and working on it, I love that you talked about, saging out your house
all the time.
Then imagine if that's nice and smooth, then you can just kind of get through things a lot easier. Those days when you're like driving in traffic and you're just kind of able, like almost like a soap bubble, to just somehow just weave right through it, or
you're that guy? You mean you're that guy who's just like, thanks for letting me in. You're like, I didn't let you in, you forced your way in.
Or you can kind of imagine like, I can see ahead of myself today that there's going to be some drama or whatever you might encounter, but you can choose to get snagged on that and stuck on it, or you can just kind of like move right through it and not let it get its claws in you. So
on that note, Dax, how much time do we have? Do we have 5, 10? 10?
Well, we're at about 54 minutes we've done.
So like 5-ish?
Sure.
Okay, so on that note, as we're winding down, and this I think is a pretty good, not to be like, oh, good job, Briana. I didn't mean it like that. I meant like, oh, I think this is pretty cumulative. So you talked about clearing your aura, and you probably attract a lot of people, whether they're real or not, like the woman for the apartment.
I know,
crazy.
so weird, right?
But
if you're out there, call me.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you. But what do you do? Because I haven't. You may have picked up on this. And I'm not saying that because you have energetic, which you may have. But I'm very. People like to approach me. I'm very approachable. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, and I think part of the reason I specifically pulled away from like 14-year-old Briana's meditating, and 24-year-old Briana's like, no, go away from me, is partly protective because. I think when you're shining a light, some people are like, hey, I went in on that light, good or bad. Mm-hmm. And so there's like how do you deal with people? I think there's probably two types of that approach. There's the general approach, which I get, which is just like, hey, you're around and seem like someone who will listen to me, and I will, unfortunately, for hours. But you also probably get the like, guide me, which is not a bad thing. How do you kind of like protect yourself of like, I want to be cleansed and clear and open. Also, I need me time, or like I can't take on everyone. Get off of me.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just totally a matter of having boundaries, which is the same as like we all need that. You know, we all need to be able to say like when with somebody, and those people that are I'm a fire sign. Fire signs like to fix things for other people. They like to get in there and go like, oh, you're having a problem. Let me help clean it up for you.
Yeah.
You know, because I know best.
Yeah. I'm in charge.
And it is. It's definitely been a lesson for me to be able to do this work, to be able to say, and it's part of how I set my boundaries, to know when to say, you've got this. You know, it's not like, no, sorry, I can't help you, but actually, like, I bet you can handle it yourself. And that's a big part of what I try to teach is, how can I help people to help themselves, you know, and trust themselves too, and take responsibility, because that's how you grow, right?
Yeah. How do you, okay, maybe some of mine are just more aggressive, so maybe it's just a personal. How do you tell, I know it's like setting up boundaries and, you know, but how do you be like, enough, lovingly? Is there, meaning you have to get like approached, like, okay, one of the reasons I moved from Chicago was because I found myself, specifically because I have such an approachable aura, like, hi everybody, I've got wide eyes and easy to steal from. Because of that, I found myself constantly, when I was walking alone at night, having to do a mantra in my head of because I wanted to give off that vibe while closing off. And part of the reason I moved is because I was becoming unrecognizable to myself, and also realized I actually couldn't mess someone up. But I like didn't like that. I found that I had to do that to be sort of protective of. So how do you? I guess I mean. Like,
I think that a big aspect is being able.
Love.
But you have to. Yeah, there's sort of a sticks and stones aspect. You don't want to be careless and put yourself in a dangerous situation.
Sure.
But you also have to think, you know, whatever I might be fearful of energetically, or what somebody's thinking or saying, or how they're getting in my space. That stuff can't harm you if you're not going to let it.
Oh.
Did I say that right?
I think so. If you just put up your shield and like, I believe in the best today, and
yeah, because that's what a lot of people do approach me about. They're like, I think that this person's doing something to me, and this person's harming me in some way, and this person's wishing black magic on me, and this person says that I have a curse, and all of those
like
things.
Stressed out for you. I'm like, I know you're just mentioning that. I'm like, oh God.
They're just aspects that, you know, it's just somebody that's in their head, and you get it kind of destroys you from the inside out. It's not that actually there's these evil magicians that are out casting spells towards people. If they are, they're not powerful enough to actually do anything. But anybody can put an idea in your head or say something to you, where then it becomes kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you give yourself the mindset that, you know what, this can't hurt me, I'm going to rise above it, like I'm in control of my life, and then, you know, you don't need to feel like I need to be protected from things. You just keep yourself out of fear and in a self-empowered kind of place, and then you rise above it. Yeah,
I like that. I don't think I could have done that before 30. Like, I think 20-year-old Briana would still be like, oh, I'm so sorry. But I like that. Naha, anything else you want to add? Anything you're thinking of? Anything that you want to throw out there? Any messages for our wonderful Dax, our beautiful skeptic in the back, who, by the way, is the most skeptical, open-minded man I've ever met.
Well, I love that, and yeah, I mean, I do. I think that it is all about balance, and I think that if you just allow yourself to be a seeker and to not be, you know, too quick to judge or too quick to shut something down. One thing that I always recommend to people that are, you know, that they are in doubt, or just to keep the question simple and just say, show me a sign. You know, especially when people are going, God, but how do I know? Or how do I get out of this? Or how do I how do I even connect to anything? They're trying to make it so complicated. You don't have to read a 300-page book. Just take a moment, take a deep breath in the morning before you leave your house and say, universe, whatever you are, just show me a sign today. And I guarantee you that, you might not even recognize it in the moment, but by the end of the day, you're going to be able to reflect back and go, that was that sign that I asked for. Something did come up that helped me to know there is something more. I am in the right place. I can trust myself.
I love that. That also comes from a very powerful place. Like what I described earlier of like, oh, just listen to whatever is told to me is a place of not power, is a place of like, well, I guess there's this big thing that's waiting for me and I'll just wait till someone tells me what to do about it. It's like the opposite of like becoming a powerful person. It's like, oh no, you just start doing things and then you figure out while you're doing it how it feels.
Right.
And if it feels bad or if it's hard, stop it. Right?
Yeah, always bounce it off your own experience and that's the best way to tell if it works for you or not.
I love that. Thank you, Naha.
You're welcome.
Dax, how do you feel?
I feel real good.
Are you feeling like you might get a crystal?
Oh, get a crystal.
Do you have some?
Oh, sure.
Of course you do.
Rutilated quartz is my favorite.
Ooh, I love rutilated quartz.
What does it mean?
It's like a little battery. It's got little golden threads running through it. And it just helps to amplify things, give you energy.
For the guy who does sound and tech stuff, come on.
It's like crystals with wires in them.
Exactly, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Naha, House of Intuition. Check it out on Sunset Boulevard. They have an amazing website that you can still get orders from the website.
HouseOfIntuitionLA.com, and you can follow me on Instagram, Naha99, or look up 22 Teachings on any kind of platform.
Anything. Also, the hashtag 22 Teachings. That's your hashtag, so you can follow. And people who joined us online, we got a lot of people online. That was pretty cool. Well, thank you. It is the most anticlimactic ending because really we're just going to stop and the recording's going to stop and everything's going to stay the same, but we'll be done.
Awesome.
So, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, yes, the music. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I feel good. Yeah, you were great. Oh, you were great. You're awesome. You're super magical. Yeah.
What's your fire sign?
Leo.
Me too.
What day?
15 August.
21st.
Oh, nice. You're cuspy.
I'm very cusp, so I have a lot of Virgo too, which is where all of my control freak energy comes from.
I actually am glad that I have Virgos around me because I think I'm attracted to the like perfectionist, but I think the Leo takes over because I'm like Leo Aries or Sunrise or something. So it's like just get it done. Takes over before that it has to be perfect.
What sign's your boyfriend?
He's Gemini.
Oh, see, fire and air is perfect.
No.
Fire and air is like whoosh.
Actually, this is somebody I want to talk about. I was like, I was trying to stick with every sign. And somebody was my first year or something. And now I'm going to marry him. I was like, God damn it, you can tell me yourself. Hi, baby.
Good.
I was just talking about you, and it's something I didn't want you to hear. Hi, baby. Oh, we're still going. Oh, bye. Thank you.